This channel is made possible by viewers like you. My viewers, subscribers, and patrons greatly help to keep this channel going. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for all of you. Please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any uploads. And if you'd like to go the extra mile, please check out my Patreon page. For just $1 a month, you'll get access to what I'm working on, previews of upcoming content, and even early videos, along with other tier options for those that are interested. Thank you, and now on to the video. I really liked the Callisto protocol when it was originally released, and now that I've been diving back into it again, I'm finding myself loving it even more. I thought it would be a good time to properly talk about some of the expansion pass content, and give my assessment on some of these items. And today, I want to focus on the story-based DLC expansion, The Final Transmission. This is supposed to act as the final chapter to the game. Now, I really enjoyed the base game a lot, but I did have some issues with it, and one of those being was honestly how it ended. I think the game would have worked even better if it just cut it off just a bit sooner than what the initial ending was. So with The Last Transmission essentially acting as the final chapter, I was interested to see how it would conclude, or potentially lead into another title. This is an odd bit of DLC, and one that I'm pretty mixed on, so let's dive in. Let's focus on the gameplay side of things. For the most part, the action is very similar to what we got in the main game. Something I like that since this is a segmented DLC from the main game, you can load up your game save and take all of your upgrades with you into this, so that there is more of a natural flow to the entire thing. Now I need to back up for a moment, because after the game came out, the developers worked to try and make the game more fair. Many complained that the game was too hard, even on normal, and while I think more balancing was definitely needed in this area, after the updates, it seems like the developers overcorrected within this area, to the point that enemies very much take turns before they attack you with their melee hits. On hard, the aggression is a bit higher, but overall it seems very toned down. Now that really isn't the case with the DLC. It seems like the DLC was made within a vacuum because it feels more like how the game was when it launched, and honestly I really like this. Sure, there are moments of cheapness, maybe from this style, but at the same time I really like the aggression that is on display. This means that when you're up against more than one foe, they will often try to attack you at once. This really keeps you on your toes. So in this area, it was a nice surprise to see this when playing The Final Transmission. Now there are other surprises that are thrown into the DLC that I liked as well. For one, there's these little small moments that sort of play with your expectations based on your knowledge of the main game. For example, one is when you're attacked while going into an elevator, which is usually seen as a safe type of area. You also get to use some new toys towards the end of the DLC. The game provides you with a hammer, and this thing is so much fun to use. When you're fighting normal enemies, it feels like you're cutting through them, like an army in Dynasty Warriors. This is something that I wish we got to use more because of how much fun it is. On the flip side, I do have issues with some of the gameplay elements for this chapter. So there are a few stealth sections where you need to dodge some organic robots. Stealth was an option at times in the base game, but I wouldn't call this an area that I wanted to see more of unless it was upgraded. We have the same-ish stealth and are forced to go through a few areas avoiding enemies. What is made worse is that there are times where you can actually fight these robots, but you can only do so when the game says so. So if the objective is to fight them, then you can. If the game says you need to sneak by them, then you can't fight them. I would have preferred more freedom within this area. Give me those areas, make the stealth optional. Also, a minigame is added for unlocking some doors. I appreciate the attempt at variety, but I mostly found this annoying anytime it popped up. Now in the later sections, the robots can feel rather cheap, along with the balancing towards the last third of the DLC. This part likes to throw so many enemies at you at once, and I appreciate the sense of scale and intensity, but the game doesn't really feel built for this, and you honestly have no time to heal if you end up getting hit. Everything is bookended by a final boss, which is actually pretty good. When it comes to the gameplay, I was enjoying the DLC for about half of it, but then these issues and poor balancing with the robots kept making encounters feel like a chore rather than a fun challenge to overcome.
It doesn't matter. Just get moving. My lab's up ahead. I'll explain there.
Now, as far as the story goes, we start out with a nice recap of the events from the main game, and then are thrown right into it. It sort of picks up where the main game ended, but now we are in another location, and don't know how we got there. The goal is to collect data and then escape. You are assisted by Mahler for most of it. What I did like were the trippy and distorted elements that were thrown into the game. There's a bunch of little hints that something slightly supernatural is going on. Everything from the visual details, some gameplay moments, and even Dr. Mahler's vague answers. When you reach the end, it is revealed that this entire chapter was essentially in Jacob's head, as he was trying to hold on a bit longer so that Mahler can send Danny some more data on the program to hopefully expose them. I am perfectly fine with Jacob dying within the game, but I think that the execution should have been a lot better. It feels a bit cheap that it was all in his head. I think it would have been better to show his death by having the player play those final moments. For example, once it's revealed that this chapter was in his head, have the final moments of the game switch back to when Jacob put Danny in the escape pod and the hordes were coming at him. Have this be an endurance part of sorts where you just give it your all and try to last as long as possible. Many people take issue with this ending, and I'm right there with them. Jacob was a character I really grew to care about throughout the course of the story. He was the everyman that we rooted for. Plus, by the end, it's revealed that he played a part in all of those people dying on Europa. So in some of his final actions, he chose to try and right those wrongs. Taking responsibility is a theme that is seen throughout the story. And this is where I'm left mixed or even a bit conflicted on this DLC. There are areas that I really like. For example, when it's good, it reminds me why I love the base game. Good atmosphere, fun combat, and very good gory fun. But then you throw in the balancing issues that can greatly hurt your experience, along with an ending that is just depressing in how it's executed. It can sour your entire experience. I have replayed the game a few times, and it still pulls me back in for more. I can overlook some of the parts that annoy me there, because the good outweighs the bad, but with the final transmission, it outweighs a bit too much in the other direction for me. I also take issue with another area of the DLC, the price. The DLC is $15 if you buy it outside the Season Pass. The DLC will last you about 2 or so hours. That does seem to be a bit on the shorter side for something like this, but again, I'm willing to pay premium if you bring the premium quality. That really isn't the case here. The final transmission has its moments that can be fun, but it has too many spots that honestly need to be better executed. When it comes to this DLC, if you're a big fan of the game, and you need to see everything, then probably wait for it to be significantly on sale. If you're just a casual player, then you can probably skip it. Outside of the good moments and the good hammer, you aren't really missing much. So in short, if you haven't played Callisto, I highly recommend playing the base game. It has a lot to enjoy about it. The final transmission, I would not recommend. Have you played the final transmission? If so, what were your thoughts on it? Let me know all of this in the comments down below. If you're interested in being notified of new videos, please hit the subscribe button and bell. And if you would like to support the channel and get early access to content, please check out my Patreon. All of the links will be at the end of this video and within the description. And thank you very much for watching.